Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our October 7th council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Mr. Oja,
Here.
Mr. Menegini,
Here.
Dr. Hayes,
Here.
Mr. Gottstein, Mr. Babalani.
Here.
Approval of the regular minutes of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 23rd. Any additions or corrections?
Make a motion we approve the minutes of the regular meeting for September 23rd, 2013.
Support.
Motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini,
Yes.
Dr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein,
Yes.
Mr. Babalani,
Yes.
Mr. Oja.
Yes. Approval manifest 2013-19 in the amount of $300,585.70. Dr. Hayes.
I just noticed that we're paying for a mailbox that must have been knocked down last winter. I was wondering why it's so late. And
I don't know why it was so late. I mean, that's common for us to deal with mailboxes, but do you guys know why it came in?
He called when it happened. I've had that note since this winter, and he just had it replaced and turned in the receipt.
And the other comment I had was that we're paying $4,000 or at least $4,000 for salt, which as we know will cause our cars to rust and kill vegetation. I know people like to have clean roads, but you're guaranteed of a rusty car if we use salt, but if you have a fender bender, that might occur, but it probably won't. So again, I'm not a real big fan of road salt, but I guess we don't have any choice.
Anything else?
No, just a comment I have.
Lee.
On the mailbox here, should I wait for after? Because I'd like to discuss our policy on mailboxes. I mean, some of these are only a foot off the blacktop. Do we have a policy? How close can they go?
We can talk about that now. The policy for where a mailbox is set up is actually established by the Postal Service. We don't have the ability to tell them to get farther off the road. You know, the Postal Service has a delivery area, and that's where they're supposed to put them, so.
But I mean, even
That's my understanding.
there's two boxes just on the other side of the tracks here. I mean, they're that far off the road, the blacktop, and the plows isn't going that faster, but even if they come to the edge of the road, the blacktop, I mean, they're gonna bury them boxes, and I'm sure they're gonna get damaged somewhere along the line.
All right, but again, I think when it comes to the postal boxes, those are the purview of the Postal Service, and, you know, we don't have the right to tell them or ability to tell them to get off the road because, you know, they tell them how far off the road to get. I think that's correct, isn't it?
It is correct,
Yeah.
from my knowledge of it. When I put mailboxes up, I've had to get locations from the Postal Service on where they need to be.
I do know that I see a lot of rural areas that put something up.
Guards,
block
I know
us.
that the county spends a small fortune every year on replacing
Right, and then people will
mailboxes.
put up
shields.
shields and whatnot, so. they
But
get tired of things.
I've also noticed with these mailboxes, especially up by where I live up there, through the years, they've tore up the water runoff, whatever you want to call it, ditch, because they come up, they drop their stuff and peel off, and there's 3 people had to put blacktop in there to stop doing this. One put cement in, and a couple haven't put anything, and they're just tearing up the side of the road. I mean, there's ruts like this there. And you know what that's gonna do to the road
Yeah,
eventually.
oh yeah, we have to fix the side of
But
the road.
it's gonna get worse, Lee, if they put the mailboxes further off the road.
Well, if they're gonna have to pull in there, yeah. I just wondering what the policy was on it, that's all. I got one other little question here, curiosity more than anything. I don't know what page it is, the numbers aren't there. Under cable television, bond payment is $10,000 for the CATV, and the interest is 31. Now, I'm assuming that was taken out in 2009. Is that right, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, what's our balance on that loan? And have we at all looked into refinancing it?
We look at refinancing on a pretty consistent basis. I believe that the major portion of the principal is made in a different payment, isn't it? I mean, there's 2 payments a year?
Only one principal payment.
There's
But
only one
That was
principal?
structured with lower principal payments at the beginning,
Oh, okay. So that was the way it was structured. Okay.
but I can get you the balance on what that is.
I'd appreciate that, Mary, thank you. That's all.
Okay, Chris?
I just had one question under Public Works, the towing fee from Wilson Auto, Iron Mountain to Green Bay, for $750.
That's, we're dealing, that's later in the agenda.
Oh,
We have the repair to the plow truck sander, number 101.
okay,
That was to get it to the shop because Iron Mountain couldn't fix it.
okay. That's all I had.
Okay, Mark?
I had the same question as Chris had. Does our insurance cover that? I know a lot of vehicle insurance covers towing. Does that municipal insurance cover towing?
I have to look into that.
I mean,
Yep,
'cause
I
it-
don't think we've asked them about that. That wasn't an on-the-road type of situation, though, was it?
No, it didn't break down on the road. Well, actually, it did break down on the road, but it happened right here in town. So getting it back to the shop was fairly easy. We did that with our own stuff. When we had to take it to Iron Mountain to get it looked at, it was towed up there, and then when Iron Mountain couldn't fix it, then it was towed to Green Bay.
But I mean, it did break down and the bill is $950
Well-
between both tows, so.
Yeah.
We'll check on that, Mark. That's a good point.
Okay. I had the same question as Lee had on the mailboxes, and I'd like to say too, when I put up the buildings on Curry Road, they actually came out and told me exactly where to dig. Under the general fund, Ray, on page 2, the diesel fuel, is that just for the off-road, or is that on-road, or both, or $1,100? Because I see sometimes the trucks are over at LaFave's.
Mark, I'm not sure about what you're asking particularly right here, but to answer your question, we do have an off-road tank at the shop that we put off-road in, and we go to LaFave's to get the truck stuff. The stuff at the shop that we keep for off-road's only for the off-road equipment,
The loaders.
but I'm not sure which one it is.
That's the one for Frontier?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
It's
off-road.
Servco, that would be to the shop over here.
Yeah.
I mean, is the diesel a lot, I know they have 2 different rates for on and off road over at LaFave. Because the bulk of our fuel for diesel is on road, if it's cheaper for us to buy it with the truck and coming and filling here, maybe we should be buying the on-road at the shop and using the off-road from LaFave if it's saving us more money.
I can check on the price difference of the off-roads and on-roads and give you some kind of an answer from Servco. So we have that.
The only difference in price is the tax.
Well,
You shouldn't have to pay the tax.
you don't pay the road tax if it's off-road.
Right,
You don't pay it over there either,
right.
yeah.
So what I'm saying, Doc, is the bulk of our fuel is on-road, so if we have a bigger savings with the on-road and we only have one tank, that's what we should be using.
Get another tank and get
Well,
on-road delivered, or the other way.
Oh,
It
or
could go the other way too.
I wouldn't think that buying another tank might not be feasible with all the
With all the rules and
with all the
regulations, you're
rules,
better off
but
to
we
get rid
should
of
be
your tanks.
utilizing the on-road at the shop because we use the bulk of it there.
We'll check and report on the differences.
Under the page 2, Ray, in the recreational department, that's 2 cases of trash bags for $90, I think it says there. It's about midway down, right by the porta potties there, and under the recreational department.
2 cases of trash bags, $90.
Okay. Manacor Electric on page 3 under the fire department is air makeup unit, $433. Is that adding something, or is that a problem with something?
Probably, I'll check in on that with Chuck, but he's probably working on some fuse holder for air makeup unit. They probably have maybe some voltage, some amperage issue that he's looking at.
We got one more. The WPPI loan under the electric for the streetlights, how far are we through that?
We'll get you a full
Situation.
report on that, but we just started that, it's only been a couple of years, and it was a 10-year, wasn't it?
Well, that's 10-year,
That's a
okay,
10-year agreement, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a 10-year, no-interest loan.
okay. That's all I have.
Okay, I don't have any questions.
I had one other question I forgot to bring up. It says that under wastewater generator rental, doesn't the city have its own generator, portable generator? I mean, every person with a workshop has a portable generator.
What department was that for?
Wastewater.
Wastewater.
Right
Wastewater?
at the bottom.
I mean,
Depends on the size, you know. I'd have to check and see what the operation was and what the water
if
thing.
we had our own generator, portable generator. I would think we would.
We have them, but depending on the size.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll check in on that, Doc, let you know.
Okay. There's no, is there any questions from the public on the manifest?
Jean Bradford, 2465 Travis Farm Road. In regards to the salt purchase, we spent $6,000 to purchase salt. And I was wondering, when we do these repeat purchases, do you work with the township? A while back, you had said like things that you bought or shared that you could possibly get a better cost, you know, if you bought in bulk together.
We're in a program called Michigan Deal or My Deal, and I don't know specifically if Brighting Township is in this program, but I believe Iron Mountain and Kingsford are in the program. County might even be in the program, but it's a state-run program. They get the best prices, best deal. So that's where we get the purchases out of. So we actually have a much larger bulk purchasing program.
And is that an average expenditure, $6,000 for the year's salt?
That's not an annual. I mean,
No,
we spend
that's
quite a
just
bit
the
more.
first shipment.
First shipment.
We get approximately 4 shipments throughout the year.
Yeah.
So
We use quite a bit of salt.
6,000 times 4, it'll be like.
Typically,
24.
yes.
Okay. And then the fire department is really good with their budget, but I just had a question about their flashlights for $433. 3 flashlights, what was that about?
Well, they use, it's not a standard run-of-the-mill flashlight that they buy down at the hardware store. I don't know the details behind it, but I do know that we have actually budgeted and have budgeted for quite a while, batteries, flashlights, different OSHA-required types of equipment for them. So it does seem like they're a little expensive for what we would consider a purchase, but because of OSHA and some of the other requirements through the departments, they have to buy specialty items.
Plus, their flashlights have to be able to handle the conditions of a fire call, so
Oh,
they're
definitely.
they're a lot heavier built,
The batteries, they have to be careful with the battery and the heat and the explosion, so.
And then my final question, under the water fund, the bond, how much is owed on that bond? The principal payment was $45,000, the interest was $6,000 plus. What's owed on that?
I would have to get you the debt schedule on that. I don't know it off the top of my head. We actually have a couple different bond issues for water, so I can't tell you that right off the top of my head.
So,
I mean, we can get that for
Can you
you.
tell me how long, how many years it's
Well,
for?
those issues could go out 40 years. I mean, one issue was from 97.
This is the 97 one.
This
This
was
is
the
the 97.
97 one, but we
So-
refinanced it 97. I think originally it was 87.
Yeah, 87 to 97, and
We
then,
refinanced it 97 with that savings agreement we did through,
Okay,
so it probably goes out to 2037.
yeah, I want to guess at least
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. Okay, without any other questions on the manifest, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I make a motion, we approve manifest 2013-19 in amount of $300,585.70.
Second.
Motion made by Mark, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Does anyone from the audience wish to address the council on the minutes manifest or any agenda item? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes. If you wish to address the council on any other topic, there'll be a time at the end of the meeting for that. Okay. Now we need a motion to go into public hearing to hear the City of Norway's 2013 Renewable Energy Plan.
Make a motion to go into public hearing.
Support.
A motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The public hearing scheduled for tonight is for the City of Norway's 2013 Renewable Energy Plan. The Renewable Energy Plan is something that was a requirement as part of the Clean, Renewable, and Efficiency Energy Act of 2008. City is required to, every 2 years, put together or update its renewable energy plan and then place it out for public comment. It was advertised in the local paper for public comment, and the plan is attached for your review. And there's no action, we just have to send into the state to verify that we had our public hearing available for comment.
With the renewable energy standards and the plans that we've had, have we been meeting our projected reductions?
We have. We remember 2 years ago, we decided to, we operated the program with WPPI's help on our own for the first couple years. Then 2 years ago, we were not able to meet the reporting requirements, and there was an offer to go in with the state-run plan to guarantee that we would meet our, we basically would pool across the state and we would meet our objectives. That's what we've been doing the last 2 years. We signed up this past year for another 2 years. I have been reviewing and working with the contractor that the state approved. They're called Energy United, or Efficiency United. And then they also contract with another company called Clear Results. The one that you see here is our employees at Clear Results. I have been working closely with them to try and personalize our program, get it more user-friendly for our employees. But to answer your question, we are meeting our objectives, and hopefully we will have more enticing programs as we go forward.
It would be nice to see from them the better communication as to when they're going to be here.
Yes.
The last time they were here, I only knew they were here because I walked in the door and saw them sitting there. I didn't even know they were going to be here. Just to get it out to the public more so they can take advantage of the programs.
We've discussed that with them, Jeremy. They used to do mailings directly to the customers. They'd get a mailing list from us. And one of the things we suggested to them, and I think we did it one other time and then they went to the individual mailings, was if they get the information to us and just pay for the copies, we'll put them in with utility bills.
Well, I know their mailing didn't exactly work right either because I know several people who didn't get a mailing.
Well, and some people got
Or it
after
came,
they were here.
yeah, it came the next day, or they got the mail the next day.
So we've discussed that with them.
Yeah, I have on a regular basis, especially this past year, been expressing our disappointment.
Right.
And they have reached out over the last month or two to try and make improvements. They hired a new person or put somebody else in charge of this area. She is very aggressive. I think you might have met her in the office. Yeah, she's very aggressive. And I'm hoping over the next year, 6 months to a year, you're going to see positive results out of that. There are some things I've committed that we would do here. In talking with Mary, I think that it's really simple for us to do, using our Channel 7, using the stuffers, and also trying to work more closely, getting this group to work with our local businesses to understand that our local businesses have enough on their plate, and we're gonna try and help so that the program gets back to more like what we used to see. Again, it's not something that I think is gonna be a tremendous detriment on our part, but it's gonna be a huge benefit for the public, for our customers.
This program, does it still have the appliance purchase for Energy Star, or is that still part of it?
It does, but the problem, and this is what I explained to them, is that when we ran it, customer would go to the store, they would buy the product, they would come to us, and then the rebate would be on the bill, on their utility bill. Everybody was happy, because the way that they run it, you go to the store, and either the store owner has to wait to get reimbursed from Efficiency United, so they're out the money until they get reimbursed, or the customer has to send in the paperwork to the state or to this group. And, you know, we all know how rebates work, and a lot of times it doesn't get sent in. So I think that by having it in this way, it really makes everybody feel more positive about the program, and that's the last part of what I'm trying to work with them. We got the communication component, which I think is real easy to solve, they just have to tell us. But then this program is something that we don't want to put our businesses out waiting for them to pay. They would pay us back, just like WPPI used to pay us back, and we're in a better position to carry that, to carry that and wait for them, and we're in a better position to bug them, as a whole.
I agree with you. That part of that program is terrible.
Yeah.
And does this, you think that's gonna be changed?
Well, we had a 2-year contract, initial 2-year contract, which is up in January. But unfortunately, because of the way the law is structured, we had to sign up in midsummer. And I didn't realize that we had to sign up so much earlier. And we were just starting the process of talking what other options were out there. We decided we had really no other option. We had to go with another 2-year agreement, but I made it quite clear that we're starting right now to look at what those other options are. So if they, over the next 2 years, are not, or even a year, are not, doing what we think they should be doing, we will have another option come the end of this contract.
When did you say the contract is?
Well, we just signed up this past summer, and it's another 2 years.
Another 2
So
years.
we will, they've got a year, I think, to clean it up. And going into next summer, if they aren't, we're gonna be looking at doing something else.
On the average bill, what is that on the average bill for this program, utility bill?
We send in, is it $72,000
Yes.
total?
Because I think it's terrible. I think it's
Or
terrible.
75 now.
The charges on the bill, it's, is it a certain dollar amount or is it a percentage?
It's a dollar amount on commercial and industrial, and then it's a per kilowatt charge on residential.
Right, that's what I thought.
And believe me, they're calling me pretty steady, they're emailing me pretty steady. They know that, I've been very vocal over the last year. I've been talking when I'm downstate, especially at the Michigan Municipal Electric meetings, the board meetings. I'm asking what they're doing. They're, you have larger groups like Lansing does it themselves, Coldwater, and one other city, actually, they do it themselves, and they use some other employees. Our biggest problem was the reporting on the back end, and to verify and justify and, on getting the results, and that's, they're struggling though now. I had, gosh, I can't think of the name of the community. He came up to me though, and was asking me what we did, and, because they were doing it in-house, and now they're in a position where they just can't do it anymore. So it's a tough law for us to comply with on our own. And we needed to pool this. I'm looking for options of better pooling. And that's really what I've been doing over the last year, is trying to get some leverage from some of the other organizations. But this is the company that the state of Michigan picked, the governor picked, and the Senate chair of the committee that put this together, or the chair of that Senate committee, he's a pretty powerful individual. I'm actually gonna try and get, get some FaceTime with him, because I talk to Tom all the time about it, and, it's not his committee, so, he knows the trouble we're having. Crystal Falls is having some of the same issues. Actually, Dave and I and Joe are kind of all together on just, frustrated, but we don't have an option right now. So we're kind of banding together to figure it out. But I see if I can't get a FaceTime with Senator Knopfson. And he's pretty powerful individual down there, so it's going to be a challenge.
And for this whole program for our renewable, our hydro is a big benefit to us, right? Because that's where all of our renewable energy credits come from.
Well, that's what I just wanted to clarify. You're talking about energy optimization, and this is the renewable standard of 10% in our portfolio of the power we sell. That's two different things. So this particular public hearing is about meeting that 10%, not the energy optimization.
Wasn't the energy optimization part of that whole thing?
No, it's not. No, this is totally different.
Okay, I was
And-
mistaken. That's why I brought it up, because I thought it was part of this.
Right, it's not, it's different, and we have no issue with meeting our renewable 10% portfolio that we have to. In fact, we average about 20,000 renewable energy credits more than what we need. So we have been marketing them when the opportunity arises as another source of revenue.
But another thing that's coming down the pike pretty fast is that, again, another reason I want to meet with this individual, this senator, is that they're looking at, and the governor's looking at, this actually going from 10% up to 20%, and they were talking about 25%. Now, we're at 10% right now.
Yes.
But they're meeting their 10% goal, and there's a next step here in the next couple of years. This all fits together, what we're talking about, the optimization, the energy efficiency, the renewable energy credits. It all works together in these packaged bills that are put together.
Well, for the city though, because the 10% is 3,000, but we generate 30. So we're not going to have any trouble.
We aren't, but what you're going to see, that part of it is actually, it could go to 30%. And what's actually going to happen, the state of Michigan is going to struggle, but the city of Norway is going to see the value of our credits go, it's just like stocks and bonds. I mean, they're going to become very valuable. People are going to be looking to purchase into these credits, and right now we're getting about 50 cents a rec.
40 to 50 cents I've been getting for them. I've heard some prices upwards of $2 to $2.50 for 2013
Yeah.
vintage. But I haven't had an opportunity to sell any of those yet.
Let me correct myself. It's 21,000 we generate.
Yeah.
When we spend 30, so they could double it, and it's not going to.
The 10% rule is due in 2015. So we're only a couple of years away from that.
Yeah.
And they're looking at 20 by 20. And there's a lot of concern going on about the percentage, getting to 20. The feeling is we kind of got the low-hanging fruit here. The energy efficiency program, or energy optimization program, they feel like that got us to a certain point up to the 10%. Some of the windmills that were constructed, the next 10% they feel like is really going to be a challenge, and they're not quite sure. But the politics are such that we think we're going. We think we're going to be, at least at minimum will be 15, but they think it'll hit 20. So for our rec credits, they're going to become more valuable when they do that.
Are there any programs out there for individuals or in the city to encourage renewable energy, such as placement of solar panels on our south-facing roofs? For instance, Germany is the highest solar-producing country in the world, and we're at about the same level as they are. So I would think that we should be able to produce more solar energy, particularly since we use most of our energy during the day, and that's when the sun shines, if it does. Is there any way we can get loans or grants to do anything for renewable energy?
The
WPPI or this energy optimization?
There's federal tax credits available at this point, but I believe I was told by a rep that they said they were going away fairly soon. WPPI used to do some stuff with solar. That has scaled back a little bit because there's more power out there than what we're consuming, and so the interest in getting people to generate their own power has dropped off somewhat. But, so right at the moment, there's not like it was 5 years ago.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments? Any of the council, staff? Anybody from the public have any comments on renewable energy plan?
I just wanted to comment, my daughter has total solar energy at her house, and she's 100% satisfied with it. Cost her quite a bit to put it in, but it's worked through the winter. She's had it now for 3 years, I believe. And that was just a comment.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments from the public? Is there any other comments from the public? Is there any other comments from the public? Looking for a motion to close public hearing, go back into regular session.
Jeremy, just real quick, if after people see this, they can send additional comments to the Michigan Public Service Commission.
Okay.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing and go back in the regular session.
Second.
Motion made by Mark, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
We have a short communications list this evening, 3 items. The first item is approval special events application, Leif Erikson Fall Festival. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Leif Erikson is scheduled for this weekend. We show you a list of activities on Saturday, starting at 9 a.m. The festival will begin. The Leaf Run is at 9. Begins at Marion Park Shelter. At noon, the parade on Main Street. 6 p.m. is the Viking dinner, and it's at Holy Spirit School. And 8 o'clock is a torchlight parade at, I believe, Strawberry Lake. On Sunday, from 9:30 to 1:30, breakfast and Mike's on Main. 2 o'clock is a tour of the Jake Mangini Museum, and between 2 and 4, there's a pickleball open house tournament at the Cornerstone Churches. That's the Lutheran and Methodist Church over across the road from the Covenant Church, just down the road from the museum. As part of our requirements, special events requirements, they're using, of course, the city properties, and for a long time now, we've had policy where they fill out an application and explain what they're doing. We show you maps where different events are going on around town, and they did fill out the application. One thing that came up this year, and I think it also is coming up in light of what discussions following the citywide rummage sale, is that we've had and have been administering a sign policy, sign ordinance in the community over the last few years, and the temporary event signs have come up to be somewhat of an issue, especially on a short-term basis. I brought to the Planning Commission, field their opinions on how we're going to handle these events or these sign issues, and it was pretty unanimous back in the discussion that they wanted us to continue to maintain how we were handling it. However, they were okay when we started to talk about the special events, having some allowances on short periods, because the reason we got to where we are is that there were a lot of complaints about signs coming out onto the highway and then staying there. Even though the event was over, the signs would stay there. We end up they're either blown around or we end up having to remove them anyway. So, recommendation is that during this special events application, a group would come in, like if we have one, we usually, in fact, every year we have one for the citywide garage sale. Every year we have them for Leif Erikson and some of the other events, that they can request to put out temporary signs, and you can set whatever standards you want. And then from staff's perspective, police perspective, you know, you are basically, you know, telling us how you want it administered during that time period. You're giving them a waiver. So I would like you to it may not be right in their application, but we did have a discussion today with some of the event organizers, and they would like me to bring that up to allow whatever restrictions you want to put on it, but allow them to place some of their, if you've seen them, they have some out already, Leif Erikson signs. They would like to have one in the Pocket Park around that corner. They would like to have some on the bump outs on Main Street to advertise people are going up and down Main Street. Marion Park, if they could have a few out at the park.
I was gonna ask about that because I noticed 2 on Main Street down by Ebbelings.
Yeah.
And 11 in a very short section next to the ship over by Third Ward.
Yeah, so what we need to do is decide how you want to administer that. And going back and forth with staff, we've had it at our staff meetings, you know, we're not anti-signs, but we want to, you know, also, we have to administer to the rules that we have. And we have been dealing in the past, before we started administering it this way, quite a few derelict signs that just basically become litter, you know, so, but we'd like your direction on the sign part of it.
Some of the concerns that I have, Ray, is that they got a pile of signs at that Highway 8 and US 2 intersection there, and I don't know if they're set back far enough, and, you know, that's a pretty busy intersection, and it could be a vision restriction problem there.
We did talk to them about the vision triangle. We also, in administering our current sign ordinance, is that if it's on public property, we lift it. You know, if it's not legal, we lift it and we just take it. If it's on private property, we don't lift it and take it, but we will, if it's there for an extended period of time, a letter is probably going out to the property owner that there's a sign. So all the signs along the highway, you notice they're back behind the property line, so they're actually on private property. You know, they would like to have the signs out until early next week, because it goes through Sunday, and then they would be lifting them early next week. But we did talk to them about the vision triangle.
I think as long as we have a time frame on when they have to be removed, and then maybe some of the quantities, like if there really are 11, like right in a row, that might be a little much.
7 on one side of the road, 4 on the other.
You know, we'd like some direction from you guys on the quantity. You know, I mean, we understand what you're saying, but is 5 enough, is 6 enough, is 10 enough? You know, we do have some standards that we put on political signs, but, you know, I don't know how you want us to do
We
it.
also have the standard for business signs of 1 per lot.
1 per lot. That's what our political sign is too, basically, with 1 per lot.
That seems fair for this too, 1 per lot.
Yeah. I think that would be a good restriction. That way you don't get the whole
Yeah,
bunch.
because I mean, over by
corners.
Sitco, I think, when I went by there before, I thought there was about 7 of them there on that one lot, right on the corner there, and it's the busiest section.
That's probably why they stuck them out.
Yeah, till the first crash.
But like I said, I mean, you know, I've been getting some feedback from irritated people that we're just anti-signs, and we're not anti-signs, but, you know, I mean, our problem in the past is people just left them there. In fact, one of the recommendations that came from the police department is, like for rummage sale signs or garage sale signs, is you have to put your address on them. That way, if the garage sale is a weekend and the sign's a week old, you know where it is, and they could actually write a littering ticket based on that. You know, so I mean, that's kind of the feedback, is to have something that has some follow-up ability too.
This winter, isn't the planning commission going to be looking at a revision to the zoning?
Yes, we are. We have a couple areas that need revisions, updating. That was another area. I know we've spent a lot of time on signs. It's probably the most difficult area in the zoning code. But again, you know, and we're just following the state of Michigan's requirement or law. So that's what makes it even more difficult.
Any other thoughts on the signs? Okay, looking at their application, I had one other question. It said that they're requesting additional police protection. Is that, the officers are going to be able to handle that that are on shift, or are you gonna have to bring somebody in?
No, the people that are on shift can handle it.
Okay.
The one per lot sign, going back to signs, I hate to berate the issue. Those are all fine on private property. We have a no sign tolerance on public property. And they're asking for a waiver on that, just like in the rummage sale days, they're gonna ask for a waiver on that. We have that with, I think you brought it up, Mark, about, we have sandwich board sign that comes out for every other week for the breakfast. We don't have issues with some of that stuff, but it needs to be established. I think what we're going to do in our overall rewrite is allow that, on a short period and having a sandwich board. The push-in signs for these events, again, we don't have a great issue as long as they go up quick and they come down quick. But their request was the pocket park, their request was some of the bump outs like you had mentioned. They did
Well,
pull a bunch today. They had a
I
whole
don't
bunch
think those are as bad as the sandwich signs, because the sandwich signs are going right into walkways. They're going right on
Yeah.
the sidewalk, so
We
it's
have to be careful with
restricting
those.
pedestrian walkway.
We'll be having that full discussion, especially during the winter. I guess their request is to be able to stick a couple of those signs out on Main Street,
But,
up and down.
well, with that, should we, if it's in a bump out, one per bump out, one,
I think as long as they say specifically where they're gonna post
Yeah.
those signs, and we know where they're gonna go, then I don't have any problem with it.
and like the pocket park, one in the
Yeah.
pocket park, but not 6 in the pocket park. I think
Well,
it'd
I
be
don't
fair.
know, they're not planning to put one in every bump out,
Why not?
and I don't know where exactly which bump outs, so I mean, you could say one per bump out right now, and
Well, the thing is on the bump outs are where we have the restriction of vision problems most of the time on the main street, so I would be real careful with the bump outs, because that's right where the vision problems are.
But I would think as long as they're no higher than 3 feet, it'd be, be a non-factor. Just like any corner in town, like a hedge, 3 feet, is that what the height on that
3
is?
foot if you can't see through it.
If you
yeah.
can't see through it, yeah.
But you still can't be in the vision triangle. So we still have to kind of look at that vision triangle area. They could put it on the backside where you don't see, so don't put it out where someone comes up and they have to look. You could put it kind of around the backside. So it's away from the vision
Well,
triangle.
yeah, if it's in the side of it where it's closer to the sidewalk itself.
Yeah, I don't have a
then it
problem
would
with
be-
them, I just want to make
Right.
sure that they're not in the vision, because the bump outs are where
Can
we
we
have
just allow
problems.
one per bump and then we'll work with them on keeping them out of the vision area?
Yeah, keeping it, because
And
the two that I saw
I could
now-
even see 2 in the pocket park, one facing US 2 and one facing Main Street.
the 2 that are by Eblings now are right next to the road. That's,
Yeah, I noticed them too.
so, can you recap that for us, Mr. Ed?
Okay.
Just so we know what we're approving.
On private property, it's one sign per lot. Right now, it's one in the pocket park. If you want to do 2, you let me know.
One, okay.
One per bump out, and then we're going to work with them on keeping them out of any of the vision issues. Is there any, Marion Park, you have an issue with putting a few signs out by Marion Park?
I think we should put a pickup time that they have to be picked
Yeah.
up.
They want to put them out now, so within the next couple days, they'll be going out. Well, some of them are already out, obviously. I would say by Wednesday of next week, they for sure will be up, but it's a volunteer group, so it depends on how many people they can get together to pick up all the signs.
You were to say Wednesday they have to?
Yeah, I think, and then maybe put some kind of a penalty. What happens if they don't pick them up?
Well, it's a nonprofit volunteer group, so I don't know. I mean,
Uh,
they're
unless
going to
you-
do it. They're going to do it. I mean,
Oh, basically, the penalty would be, they're not gonna be allowed next year.
Yeah.
that's,
Okay.
and this has an effect for everybody else, I mean, this is really a citywide event. They're doing it for the city, for everybody. Whether you participate or not, it does help. It's just like the citywide rummage sale. It's not a personal rummage sale or garage sale or personal event, wedding or whatever. So
Where do we stand on the public property, like by the boat? Because there's some that are probably on city property.
yeah, I mean, you have to, they're gonna have to abide, I mean, if you're okay with it, then.
Just say the one, again, one, because that would be its own lot, just one on.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay. And pick up by Wednesday.
Wednesday, 9 AM.
I make a motion, we approve the special events application for Leif Erikson with recommended council restrictions.
Motion made by Mark, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Resolution 2013-31, vacate of right-of-way Danielson's Greenhouse. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The resolution 2013-31 has been put in your packet. This is the vacating of the alley by Danielson's Greenhouse. There's actually two alleys. The process is that you don't approve the resolution tonight, you approve the wording to go to the public hearing, that we can advertise this, and then send out the letters and contact the people and do what we need to do. So it's really a first step.
Did we actually receive a request to vacate it from Mr. Milbrath?
No, we received a request from the council at the last meeting. We pushed it forward based on that.
There's certain expenses that go along with this, aren't there?
Yeah, publishing. But he's not, I mean, he said it was okay, but he's not pushing it. He said that you guys wanted him to talk about it. Or
I
to
think
do
that,
it.
it's gonna benefit him. We shouldn't have to, the taxpayers should not have to pay the expenses. I mean, it's totally a benefit for Ron, and
Yeah, I don't want
I
to
think he
paying
needs to
money
pay.
to vacate land to give to somebody.
yeah,
Unless
I
they
think he
really
needs
want
to
it, then
pay
they gotta pay the
if
expenses
he wants it.
themselves.
Okay, so if you approve moving forward, subject to him paying, we have a fee for it in the form.
Yeah, I think he should pay the
Okay.
fees.
You should
if-
pick
if
up
he-
all costs.
If he doesn't want to do it, that's fine.
Well, we have a standard fee that we have. I mean,
That
we just
covers
apply
it?
Oh, yeah.
Ray, there was some opposition from the staffing. What came about with that?
From the staffing?
From the staff about,
Oh, we
When
just
we
want to make
talked
sure we
about it.
keep our utility easements, we keep our utility access. He understands that, we talked to him about it. There's one house on the corner that, it's a rental house. We're gonna be talking to the owner of that house. Their garage is on the side. I talked to Ron at some depth about that, and, I basically told him if it gets vacated, the garage is not gonna have any problem, because half of that is gonna go to the rental, so they'll have access to the garage. But functionality wise, and even if they had a falling out, the access to his business isn't gonna be hurt either. But I said, you guys are gonna have to work it out, because it's gonna be private property then, and they're gonna have to deal with it. So he thought he would be fine, he thought he'd be able to deal with it, so.
With this, the line coming through the storm sewer would still be pulled out, right? That we talked about at the last meeting?
We still have to deal with that issue.
Because I mean, we'd be giving him the alley right away, but he's still down the center of the storm sewer, or on top of the storm sewer, so what would take place there? Because it actually goes underneath, it starts by the alley and it goes underneath the road to the waste
Yeah.
plant.
Yeah, and we need to continue that conversation with them. There's a couple of these that are out there that have been there for a while that we actually helped put in. That's what I'm finding out, that, when we tell the property owners, they're like, well, you guys in the past, you helped us, put this in your culvert. And, when we talked to our insurance agent, what they told me is that, or they told us, is that, they really don't have an issue, provided that either a homeowner would put us as additionally insured on their homeowners in policy, in case something happened, or if a business would put you additionally insured on their business insurance. Now that just, that comes down to your guys, you guys have to decide, is that the policy you want?
But typically, the homeowner isn't gonna have the liability that's the city's gonna need if something was to happen.
Well, that's why we would have to deal with their homeowners and see if it's worth it for them. But like I said, I mean, that's why it's a conversation.
I just wanted
that
to
has
make
go
sure
on.
that that was still gonna be,
It still has been in the conversations, and, you know, one of the sticking points is that we didn't own that, we bought that, right away after the fact, so I was talking with Jay about that issue too, is, you know,
we bought the right of way where the alley was?
no.
Or where
the
the
alley,
waste
you're
pile.
talking about under the alley, if it's vacated, then we don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know
I'm talking
that,
about
but
the one that goes to the creek.
the one that goes to the creek is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When you said that we had bought that, I didn't know if you meant the wastewater access road we purchased or the alley right away that we're vacating we
No,
purchased.
it actually was the road that's going into the
To the
wastewater
waste
plant, because that was the old, right-of-way for,
In talking with Jay, the difficult thing with that one is we bought it with the line already in it. So we bought it with the check, we accepted it with Ron's line running underneath. So whether or not we can remove that one is questionable. Correct, Jay?
Yeah, and one of the problems you might have is that he may have had a prescriptive easement or be able to claim a prescriptive easement before the city of Norway ever bought the property against the prior owner, and you can do that. So in a situation like that, I think the thing you do is you deal with it and the fact that it's there, and you deal with it. And you put in provisions in there for indemnification, insurance, and that sort of thing. And
That particular one is kind of, because we bought it with it there.
some of the other issues that were brought up were like what happens if, since it might not be on a missed dig or something, where you wouldn't know it was there, if it was ruined by AT&T or somebody else, how do you handle it? And our problem, our view would be that it's their responsibility to fix it, then if they want to fix it or whatever, we're not going to be responsible for it. And there's some other issues, I think, one of the council members, Mr. Gotstein, brought it up, and so I think it's something that's probably going to need to be discussed by the council some more. But I think there's ways of dealing with this, but I mean, this thing's been there for, as far as I know, 30, 35 years, something like that. It's a little hard for us to go in town to get off now.
Well, we had the same problem when we had that property out at Pierce Gorge though, with easement. So I mean, if it wasn't no legal easement, then he should have to take it out as far as I'm concerned for liability reasons. But I guess that has nothing to do with the alley vacating.
Is there any other questions or comments about the alley? Okay, I need a motion to approve.
I make a motion, we approve the alley right-of-way vacating for Danielson's Greenhouse, providing that he covers all costs associated with vacating.
Support.
Motion made by Mark, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. The last thing on the agenda this evening is approval, repair to plow truck sander number 101. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We talked about it briefly with the towing charge in the manifest. This particular plow truck, 101, it's one of our workhorses, and it's gonna cost about $5,500 to repair this vehicle. I believe he said we were gonna get about another 7 years, 5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 is the estimate.
Right, on this vehicle for making this repair, but we really don't have a better option at this point. It's down in Green Bay at the Sterling dealer. It's the type of repairs that needs to go right to the dealer. It's the only Sterling we have in our fleet, but we're recommending to move forward and get this repaired at 554745.
Like Ray mentioned, this is our main salter rig. It has the large salt box on the back, so.
Of course, if we didn't buy the salt, we wouldn't need the salter.
You'd need to spread sand.
I know for the garbage truck, we have a slush fund where we're saving X amount of dollars a year. Do we have a program like that to replace these trucks? Or if we need a new one, we just gotta bite the bullet? Maybe that's,
The last two we bought, we ended up getting rural development loans for.
Financing.
maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to keep in mind next budget time where we can start to get a little slush fund for trucks. Same with
left.
pickup trucks.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna take that money out of?
Gotta budget it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that recommendation to move forward with the repair of truck 101 for a cost not to exceed $55,4745.
Support.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
That's the conclusion of our business this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Does anyone from the audience wish to address the council? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
Yeah, Jack Zimmerman, 2009 Fifth Ave. I have a question about this charity tax on my electric bill. What happened to common sense here? You sent us a letter in the mail asking us if you wanted to change the lines on the road down to two-lane traffic, but yet when it comes to something as important as taxing a homeowner because he has an electric meter on his house, to fund a charity without asking us. We're not a socialist state. Why are we getting taxed? This is taxation without representation.
That fee was put in by the state government, and we either had...
No, the electric utility had the option of joining this charity fund.
No, we did. We had the option of opting out of it.
Yes.
And if we opted out of it, for 6 months, we would not be able to shut off electric. Period. We could not shut off, and the risk of that was going to cost the city.
Why should we have to pay to fund this charity just so you can't shut the power off?
The risk of that was going to cost the city a significant amount of money. And when we looked at it, it was better for the city to stay in and charge the 99 cents.
Yeah, but why not ask the people? The people are the one that are paying this bill.
Because that's a decision for the council to make. And the council is the elected representatives of the people. And we
Yeah,
felt
but
that it
you
was
ask
the
us
best.
about painting a line on the road, which is common sense, and yet something as important as taxing us, you don't ask us about.
It's not a tax, it's a fee.
Yes, no, it is. It is a tax. It's
No,
a
it's not.
charity tax. We're funding a charity.
You're
And
funding a
I'm going to
state
tell you,
program.
I'm refusing to pay it. I've got calls in to all our representatives and senators. One of them has gotten back to me. They're sending me paperwork so I can start filing an injunction against this. Because I refuse to be taxed just because I own a home to fund a charity. It's not right. We're not a socialist country yet. They're trying to make us one, but we're not one yet. We went through a little war with the British about this taxation stuff. And now you guys are right back on it again. Just because you don't want to have this ability to shut power off, we have to pay a charity tax, and that's not right. It's not fair. I make less than $10,000 a year. I'm trying to make my payments, and you're telling me I got to pay a charity tax to pay somebody else's bills when I got a hard enough time to pay my own. I'm not real happy.
That's the 99-cent fee is a state fee. They
I
put the
understand
program in
this.
place. It doesn't go to the city, it gets passed through to the
I
city.
understand this. I understand it's a state charity. But you should have asked us if we wanted to pay it or not just take it upon yourself to say, yeah, we're going to join this club. Over half of the utility companies did not join this fiasco for a reason, because it's taxation without representation.
The private ones could not shut off anyway. So for them to opt out or opt in, they didn't really have a choice. Any private ones cannot shut off in the winter because of the Public Service Commission. We have the ability to. That is why we chose to stay in the program.
Yeah, I don't care about shutting somebody else's power off. If they're not paying their bills, that's not my problem. I shouldn't have to pay their bill, is what I'm getting at,
But
and
you
that's
will-
what we're doing.
You will through your electric rates anyway, because the money is going to be recovered somewhere.
Well, I'm not gonna pay it. I'm in the process of fighting this all the way through to the state level, and I refuse to pay it. Just so you know that it's wrong. You cannot put taxes on us without asking us. It's just wrong. And I refuse to pay it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else from the audience wish to address the council?
Common sense in this world.
Does anyone else from the audience wish to address the council on any subject? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address.
I need to think about that when talking about
A couple of months ago, we had, a program came out from the state. It was to support the low income.
You know, can I explain? Last year, the governor had a program called the Home Heating Assistance Program.
Correct.
He had it paid for through the general fund of the state of Michigan. Okay? And the monies that he used through the general fund, that we all paid through our state taxes, that paid different organizations, state-run organizations, DICSA is one of them, to pay for home heating assistance. This year, when they put the budget together, he told the Senate specifically, he said, I'm taking it out of the general fund now. It's not going to come out of the general fund. You need to set it up to come out of somewhere, some utility. They looked at, and we were very much against the whole electric, you doing it out of electric, because you would think it'd be the gas meters. If you're going to do something, go to the gas company, because it's home heating. But what they decided was there were more electric meters than gas meters. So they placed it on the gas or the electric meters. And they passed a law. And when we got to the point where we had the ability to opt out, he's right, but half of the companies that he's talking about are investor-owned, and they're governed by the Michigan Public Service Commission. They can't shut off in the winter anyway. So why would they opt into the program? They might as well just opt out of the program because they can't shut off anyway. We had a program that we established a couple years ago, which it was actually set up again by state legislation, where we shut off. We have the ability, but we have to offer the ability to pay. You know, they have to come in and they set up a payment plan, and it worked really well. Before that, if somebody knew that they weren't getting shut off, we wouldn't hear from them starting November 1st, and on March 1st or April 1st, and this one it goes to April 15th, you just wouldn't hear from them. And then all of a sudden there's $2,000 worth of bills. Usually their gas meter was cut in October, so they're heating all winter with electric, and they walk away. Typically they're not invested in the property, they walk away.
Our program has worked well with helping people who couldn't to come in and set up a payment plan. They have to stick with the plan, they have to hold up their end of it. But the fee he's talking about was a 99-cent charge that was added to the bills.
A 99-cent one-time
Per
charge?
no, monthly,
Per month,
monthly
per
per
meter.
meter.
It's a meter.
However, if you will have like an electric meter and a hot water, or a garage in a house, you only get to charge once. So if you have separate meters for like your garage or your house or your
it's
hot water
99
and your, but it basically is 99 cents per month.
And so now you cannot shut off somebody that does not pay
We can,
electricity?
because we opted to accept the charge and then pass the charge through. We have the ability to shut off. People are just gonna ignore us saying, come in and set up a plan, and they're just gonna ignore us. We can shut them off in the winter now, which could save the city thousands of dollars per incident.
And we work hard to try and get the people to pay. We don't want to shut anybody off. I mean, period. We know the Bay City situation happened a couple years ago. We understand that. And that's why they came up with this payment plan. But the person tells us what they can pay, and we work with them all winter. At least they're communicating with us. If they don't, we have the ability to shut them off. And I think that keeps people to at least come in and talk to us. You know, I've been working all summer with groups downstate on this. They're not happy. Nobody in the electric business is happy about it. But his injunction he's talking about and speaking with our legislators, this is a governor's program. He's going to have a heck of a time. He's going to have a heck of a time. So good luck. I mean, I don't know.
Is it actually legal, Jay, to put people, turn off their electricity in the winter?
Yes, we have the right to do that.
Even like
DTE
when-
Energy will shut off anytime. If you don't pay the bill, they don't care if it's winter or not, they'll shut off.
But We Energy is just governed by the Public Service Commission. I believe there's limits as to what they can do from November until April. I don't mean to correct you, but I think there is. I don't
That's
know.
for We
I'm
Energy,
not-
that's
I
for
don't- you know,
their
I've never
electric.
had that problem, but I've talked to We Energy representatives, and they said they cannot shut off people's electricity during the winter months and let them freeze to death. We have the ability to do that, not so we can put them to freeze to death, but so we can collect our bills.
Right.
Because if 99 cents per customer is a lot of money, what happens when you get $20,000 worth of utility bills that haven't been paid? this community have to absorb that. And we talk about budget and how much we're spending on fixing a truck and how much we're paying for salt, and then somebody walks out of here with $20,000, collective group of 20 or $15,000, $10,000 worth of utilities that we had to pay for. We paid for all these people to do this job. They don't pay the bill. And who pays for it? Everybody in this room and everybody that lives within the city or buys electricity from the city.
When we were still deciding if we were gonna opt in or opt out, I talked with Mary on what the average electric could be for somebody for that amount of time. Their electric bill could be, especially if they're heating with space heaters, you're looking at least $4,000 probably for a 6-month period. And that's what the city, for each person that would just walk away, that's what the city would risk losing if we couldn't shut it off.
And so now, if you do shut it off, you'd still go through collections to get the payment?
We would still try to, yes. We would do everything we could to still collect it.
We take that very seriously, obviously in the winter. You know, we're very careful. The only people that have gotten that close are the ones that really don't communicate with us. And that's the honest truth. I mean, if you're communicating with us and you try to work with us, you know, and you come up with a payment plan, you know, we're pretty good to work with. But, you know, when we had it in the ordinance where we didn't shut off, you wouldn't hear from somebody for 3 months.
And our goal isn't to shut people off, it's to get them to come in and talk to us.
Okay. Well, I didn't know anything about what he was talking about. Maybe it should have been published a little more.
Yeah, we had it in the utility bill.
There was a note on the utility bill about it, on last month's bill, and I believe it's gonna be on, the bills are going out tomorrow. I believe we left it on there for another month, just a brief paragraph of explaining what that 99-cent charge is.
But just in its communication, it's hard to understand. I mean, it's really a complicated thing, so it's pretty hard to even write it out.
Okay.
One more change of subject. What is your policy regarding yard sale signs, rummage sale signs? Do we have a policy or we don't?
We do. Yard sale signs in your yard, there's not a lot of restrictions. You can put them,
Right.
because that's on private property. Outside of private property, if you have it on public property, you basically can't put them there. You can't put them on public property.
So on
Okay.
the side of the road, you cannot put a yard sale sign?
Not on the road, not on the highway, not on,
Any city street?
unless it's on private property.
I think the big thing there, Gene, is most people, they'll have a rummage sale like you just had one.
Right.
They'll go and put a sign out there. Well, the rummage sale's over, next day the sign is gone. It's just here and there.
Right.
The problem is where somebody will put it out there, oh, rummage sale is over, I'll leave the sign there. And a week later, it becomes litter and it gets blown around.
Or if somebody's stapling them to the utility
Yeah.
poles.
Or if it's an ongoing happening.
Yeah, or they have, every weekend they have a rummage sale and they got a sign there steady.
How
To me,
about-
this one-shot deal, it's,
Have you ever thought about having them come in and get a permit and get
That's-
those rolls and maybe pay a
that's kind of the
$5
discussion,
fee?
isn't
And
it?
if they don't comply, their address is on the,
That's kind of where we're
Yeah,
gonna be
that's
going
where
with the
we're at
revision.
now, yeah.
So that will allow a little more freedom with that.
okay.
We're accepting all sorts of ideas.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council? Okay, Chris?
We got two things. I'll take the easy one first. The boulevard trees and getting those cut down. Where are we at on that?
Okay, I got a list from David, and we're probably looking at 60 trees at this point. There's 48 he identified. There was another number of trees that came in, and he was going to back check. They came in on complaint tractor. So, you know, with our current crew and where we're at with what we have to do, I asked Joe to check up on contracting and see what we can do to get through those trees.
And it's gonna include cutting the tree and taking the stump out?
Cutting and getting it out of there, yeah.
Oh, the stump.
With the stump. Initially, we may not get the stump out. Typically, what happens is we go back in later in the, let's say in the spring, try and get the stumps removed.
Okay.
But you don't want to leave them around too long.
Yeah. So we're working on that and getting,
We're working on that
are we
right
getting at least some of the really bad ones taken care of ourselves?
now. We're trying.
The other one I wanted to bring up was this issue we had with lines going under city property. And we talked specifically about the ones over on Strawberry Lake and how we were going to not allow that to happen anymore with new ones and old ones. But I see that there's more of this coming up around the city with other lines being found and have been there for a while. A lot, which Ray had mentioned, had been put in with assistance of the city. So maybe instead of us banning it outright, we should look at allowing it on a permitted basis and develop some kind of standard that a homeowner can go through to get a line put in if they so desire to cross city property. There could be a permit fee associated with it, but there should be standards associated with it, and then we could take it on a case-by-case basis, whether the city wants to allow this to happen or not.
I know right now on the use of city property, somebody can come in and apply, they would apply to council. I don't know what the permit exactly is for that and the fee, but we've had a couple of them in the last few years where people wanted to put a garden up on city property or put a fence. And they came in and they applied and council reviewed them at that point, but I don't, other than setting up, I don't know if there was a fee for the permit, I don't know. Right?
It wasn't a fee, it was a license agreement, and we just looked at it based on the merits of the case of what, whether we'd allow it or not.
Well, I think a license agreement would be something that we could look at for this situation as well. Allowing it depending if they met the standards we set, if they have to go underneath the road or something. But I think we should look at it in more detail, and maybe look at the staff to get some recommendations on how we can go about developing a plan or set of standards for this to happen, and then council can maybe review it and make a decision on that.
Okay, because right now, by the vote last time, they can't do it at all, and the ones then have to come out. So do you want to revise that?
I would like to revise that, correct. I'm not asking specifically for a vote on that tonight, because I'd like to see us get some information either from Jay and from Joe and Ray as far as a plan of action, so that when we do approve something, or if we decide to turn this, we actually have a plan in place.
I can reach out to other communities and see if they've addressed, have this issue.
Well, we should develop a plan, but we probably should vote then to allow those that are in place to stay in place. People are gonna do this, probably won't wanna do it until spring anyway.
Do we want to review the ones that are already in place, or just allow them as is?
I'd like to see it taken right out of the council's perusal myself. I think when you got a council approving or disapproving something, thumbs up or thumbs down, too often personalities get involved. I think it ought to be something that city manager ought to handle. I think the council ought to develop the policy, but each individual case should not be decided by the council.
I agree. I don't think that we should decide on the existing ones, but leave up to staff to decide on existing.
I think the existing ones need to be reviewed, though, based on the communication we received from our insurance company. They definitely are interested in us having some kind of protection. They didn't have a problem with if we were additionally insured and some other things, but I think we need to review those ones that we find. The other thing I've been working on, and have been working on it for a couple of years, I just haven't been able to finalize it, get it to you, is a right-of-way policy and a right-of-way ordinance, because we're investing, especially to get into new sidewalks, new streets, curb, and typically a community would have a permitting process if somebody needed to, or a contractor came in, needed to work on a water line, a sewer line, and it happened to be in the right-of-way, boulevard, right-of-way, whatever. There's a permitting process. You can't go in the state of Michigan's right-of-way without a specific permit and dealing in their set of standards. So I'm trying to work on something. This could be similar to that. I think when you're dealing with a homeowner like that, we have to work with them, just like in zoning. We spend more time with the homeowner because they're not used to this, and we want to make it as painless as possible, but we still have to make sure we ensure the standards. So I would recommend that we weren't going to push forward aggressively until this winter, or this fall, because they're going to have to pull their pumps anyway. They got to blow out their lines. It won't be till next spring before they put it back in place. So felt like we had a little bit of time to review it, and we can come up with something and put it in front of you guys. And just like Doc said, though, I mean, if there's a set of standards that you approve, just like the ordinance, just like you know, we could actually, from a staff level, we could, as long as they meet in standards, we could do it from a staff level.
I think though, if you do it like a license agreement, the charter says the council has to be the one approving it.
Well, the council has a responsibility for public lands, you know, so
Right.
you do have that responsibility.
Right, that's what I mean, so they may have to come through. They go have the process, like you said, but they may still have to come to council with each one.
Yeah, sure.
And that's by the charter.
Well, but then how does that work what if we treat it like a utility? If a private contractor comes in and wants to put lines down our right of way, does council specifically approve that permit?
No, see, like for the telecommunications, the Metro Act took care of that. So it's a standardized franchise agreement for those types of utilities. Electric, gas, those are separate franchise agreements that the utility would come to the city. And then under that, there's a permitting requirement, such as you need to send us the drawings.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
With the telecommunications one, we did approve the franchise agreement though, didn't we? Didn't
We
have a vote?
approved pole attachments. We approved pole attachments, but I don't think we
No.
approved the easement for the,
Jeremy's thinking, we had some agreements come through lately, but the Metro Act is default. I mean, there's an overall franchise agreement.
but they still have to apply for a
They
permit.
have to
and they gotta
apply
meet
for
the
individual
standards.
permits.
So that's what I'm saying, if we
and
do that with homeowners, where they have to apply for a permit, and then they have to meet the standards.
Right.
You know, so it doesn't necessarily have to come before council for approval. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but, I mean, I don't know how many of these they're gonna come in.
Well, one thing, that'll be a debate item when we talk about, especially a right-of-way ordinance, depending on what kind of work it is, depending on what it is. You know, all your individual franchise agreements, all your individual permits do have to come in front of council, you know. So I think that's something that we'll put together the details of it, and you'll be able to review the different options of how you want to handle it.
My feeling on it is we should still not allow them. We voted to keep it, to not allow them, and personally, I think we should keep it, so they gotta pull them, and we not allow new ones.
I'm like Jeremy, I think you're opening a can of worms here, because, you know, where Ron's got his over there, that's all you need is a kid playing by the water with something to grab on. I mean, you got power and water right next to each other. And they're not gonna have the liability that the city of Norway is gonna need to cover our butts if somebody gets killed. And if not to say that that piece of property would ever be marketable because it goes to the waste plant, but if there is a piece of property that the lines, that we allow the city, or we allow the neighbor to put lines underneath, and that property gets sold, what happens to the lines? Then pretty soon you got the new person that bought the property arguing with the person with the line on the property, and there was no easements. It could devaluate property that if we ever sold it, because now we have an easement, if you'd have to put an easement on there. I don't think that the liability is worth the risk to the city.
Well, I said before, and I'll say it again, I see no problem with it as long as they sign off on it, where the city isn't liable for anything.
Well, for insurance carriers happy, I think we should be happy, so we should comply with what their wishes were as far as the permitting.
Our insurance carriers sound like had some problems with it, right, Ray?
Yeah, they
Some
want to make sure
concerns?
that we're, you know, as a minimum, they said that they wanted the homeowner and or the business to name us additionally insured. I don't know what kind of cost that is. I don't know if that's something that's just so costly for a homeowner. You know, business usually do it on a regular basis for projects and whatnot. I don't know about homeowners, we'd have to find out. But they did want that as a minimum, because then if something did happen, then their insurance company would be taking the lead. And that's true.
Yeah, and I don't think there's much of a cost at all to it. You know, people do it all the time. You name the banks, you name a land contract, you name somebody as a co-insured, the vendor as well as the purchaser. So I think it's something that can be done. You know, I'm always a little nervous about somebody getting hurt and the city being exposed to liability. So in that sense, I agree with what you're saying. I get nervous about it, but if our insurance company is telling us that the average homeowner's policy is covering us as a co-insured and they're happy with it, they have a duty to defend us, and we would also have another set of attorneys that are defending us under the homeowner's policy. I guess it's a council decision ultimately. I do concern myself, however, with the liability issue.
So what does the council want to do with the current ones that are there and the request we got? Because there was a request put in.
Well, I would still like to see us go through and set up the standards and a policy, and then address new and existing in that policy.
Yeah, I think the existing ones, the current ones, I think we're only talking about 4, right?
Well, for the,
That you know of.
3 that we know of. They're gonna be shutting it down here real soon. So, you know, it's gonna be a situation where, by default, they're not gonna be utilizing the system, and by the time that they would ever get to a situation putting it back in place, we would have this worked out. You know, I mean, right now, the council rule stands, you know, I'm not saying we're not, you know, that we're.
No, the city owns Lake Mary, right? Strawberry Lake?
Well, the city owns all the property around Strawberry,
Around.
yes.
So technically, who owns the lake?
the DNR.
The DNR.
DNR, state
The DNR owns
How
the
about
water.
Lake Mary?
State of
DNR.
Michigan.
The DNR owns all water.
How about Lakeview?
DNR,
The DNR owns all water.
How about the creek?
DNR. The state of Michigan owns all waters in the state of Michigan.
And do they have a problem with somebody tapping in?
They have to pay a permit fee.
Yeah,
No,
but
they
they're
don't.
also
No,
not going
Only
across,
large irrigation.
they're also not going across city property, though, Lee. They can
No, I know.
probably tap in, but
If
there's no
somebody's-
benefit to the city, and that's all the city has is a liability that could be attached to it, and I think we're foolish to do it.
Well, and they're actually costing us because they'd be using city water otherwise, which we would then collect.
Well, I'm not even
City
looking at that
electricity.
portion. I'm just looking at the liability for, you know, there's no benefit for the city, and it's just a major liability.
In some respects, some of the details, some of the questions, concerns are a little bit done in hyperbole here, because we're, you know, if we had a policy and a plan, there's a lot of thought. I mean, you two guys are right now, without that information, you're right on. You're right on. The thing is that there could be a way of addressing it, and at least going through that process. So, again, I mean, I think not changing what you voted on at the last meeting is fine, and I think that we're not in any danger of missing out on, if we continue with your policy, that we wouldn't shut them off. It's just, we do have a little bit of time here, and we're able to at least investigate, look at, deal with insurance, deal with some of these issues. I mean, it's a big question mark, you know, and we dealt with it in the past pretty seriously, and I think, you know, this is setting up how we're gonna handle it in the future, so take some thought and some.
And so the request now still is a no. The request.
The request is a no. I mean, if someone came in today or tomorrow and asked, it's no, we don't have, a policy is you're not allowed. We're dealing with the 3 that we know of that are currently in place. They've been in place for a long time. You know, we're gonna deal with those. Our direction, though, right now, based on your vote, is to have them remove it. But, you know, we're gonna come with to answer those questions that you guys raised. And we're gonna talk about other ways that you possibly could deal with it. I'll check in with some other communities and see if they have the same, if they've dealt with this issue and how they deal with it.
But as far as right now, even though we've made the decision to not allow new ones and make people remove their old ones, are we making people remove their old ones?
We have not gone out and aggressively made them remove them right now, because they're gonna end up having to pull the pumps and blow them out anyway, and I just wanted to make sure that we answered some of those questions.
So as of right now, we're not gonna pull anybody's existing setup.
No, right now, I haven't gone out and told them to remove them.
I just don't want us to get to the
Well,
point where,
because right now, you should be. You should be going out there and telling them, remove everything, conduit, everything. That's the way the vote is right now.
because I have no problem making a vote saying that we're making a motion to say we're not gonna allow new installations, but we will accept the existing ones as is until a policy is drafted.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Chris, supported by Dr. Hayes. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Oja,
No.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Bobolani?
No.
Okay. What else you got?
That's all.
Mark?
I got a couple, Jeremy. Truck signs, I think we need some truck signs out there for truck routes, get a hold of some of the businesses, especially over by Saginaw. There's the metal truck that's coming from Peterson Welding, not real heavy, but it's all over Saginaw. Same with like the Amherhart truck coming from La Foams, all them trucks are going down Saginaw with the new tar. Lee had brought up the washouts on some of the areas by the cable tower and over where Mary Mason's building a new house down Butcher Hill. I would like to see something done comparable to, like we talked about last time over by Red Lines, because I think after that hard rain, everything looked good over there. So I think Mary's driveway's laying on the bottom of the hill from last week. I'd like to know if we got the money for Grant Litt's property and where it was brought into the system.
He paid, right? I'm pretty sure.
I believe you paid it, we'll
Yeah.
have to look and see, I'm assuming it just went into the sale of property account in the general fund, but I'll double check now.
We were holding the deed until he paid.
Okay, I was
Remember
just
hearing
curious, I know we talked about, a couple people had some pretty good ideas where they thought the money should go. Obamacare, first of the year, what's gonna happen with our part-time people? I know they can't go over, I think it's 30 or 32 hours, or we have some big problems. If anybody's thinking about that, or what we're gonna do with the police and the fire, or and the new garbage truck people.
It's my understanding, now Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, but because we are under 50 employees, that rule doesn't apply to us.
Oh, I was told that it, by my bookkeeper, I was told that it did, for myself.
We
If you're-
checked with Employee Benefits Agency, who works with us a lot on our healthcare,
Okay,
and they told us we would not have a problem. Even they take a monthly average because we have a higher employment base in the summertime with part-time people, and we have the golf course people, and he said we did not have to worry about that unless we were averaging over 50 employees, and we're not.
see, I was told it was 32 employees, and if your organization made over, I think it was 500,000 a year, that they could not work over 30 hours.
I'll run it by Vince again tomorrow, I'll talk to him, but when he was here and met with us, that was the understanding I got.
Yeah,
is that
because we
it's
quizzed him pretty hard on
under
it.
50.
Okay, just so we know what's going on.
I'll double check with him.
Okay, update on electric truck that was damaged. Is that truck gonna be okay, or when are we getting it back, or did we get it back?
Truck's back and it's fine.
It's fine,
Yep.
okay. I know the off-air part of TV6 is not our doings. Is there anything we can do about that with the subscriber or whatever out of Marquette? Because it seems like it's off the air on a pretty regular basis. Is that a station that we actually pay for?
We are paying for those stations, yes. It's an issue that I'm starting to really I'm trying to figure out how to address this issue, because since we're paying for it now, I feel like we should be getting a better service out of them. It's not just TV6, it's all of
11
our
is off
off-airs.
once in a while.
All of our off-airs are, when it went digital, you know, it's a function of their equipment and our ability to receive. We're starting to look at a couple different options that are out there, but, you know, apparently they have the equipment, but they just haven't gone forward and made the investment. They have a permit for the equipment.
Application to go through. But this last issues was more atmospheric than equipment failure, because everybody was having the same issues.
Now, the one station that we aren't paying for, that everybody has really fallen in love with, this MeTV, channel 11,
Yeah.
that is, we have no control, and it's a pretty small budget station. So we're not paying for it, but it's,
So in the contract that we have with TV6, is there anything in there that says anything about off-air time or whatever via, if it's equipment or whatever, because we're purchasing it?
there's some, Chris helped me out with this if I fall astray, but there is some language about the performance, but as irritating as it has been, I believe that the standards are still being met. It's gonna be pretty hard to go below the standards that are set in those contracts. And I think that's FCC standards, that's not just negotiating with them. Am I right on that? Yeah. It's hard, we have to deal with them directly, and there's not much push on the back end right now, so.
Okay. The leaf pickup, I know it's been talked about numerous times. I've noticed a lot of the storm sewers are pretty much plugged up. Pine Needles, and I think we're getting a lot of stuff in the bay. I don't know if you can, I wouldn't send all 6 guys from the Public Works out tomorrow, but I think that if they took the sucker and just one guy on the back and one guy on the driving and just rode down, if we can get the thing on the truck, if it's about time to be putting that on.
We were running a street sweeper today to pick a lot of that stuff up, Mark. I saw them back here in this part of town, and we ran all through town to try to get a lot of that stuff up. And the street sweeper does pick it up pretty good as long as it's not that thick, you know.
Okay,
That's what we were doing today.
okay. I know we okayed the Baco deal with the extension. I was just kind of curious, maybe Ace has some ideas. I don't know how that pavement adheres when you wait that long with the second coat. I mean, it was covered with leaves. I don't believe they swept everything off. They just laid it right on top of the leaves and road dirt or whatever.
They usually go in and sweep that stuff off.
They
and
laid the
then they have to
second
put a
coat
tack
right
on.
on.
They put a tack down, I know that. I saw the tack truck, the tank truck with the tack for the second coat down. But as far, I didn't see them sweep the leaves either, but I just assumed they would. You just don't lay it over the top of the leaves.
Well, I didn't see them sweep Norway Street over here, and
I know there were a lot of leaves on it, and so, but they did have a tack truck there. I saw the tack truck.
I think in future contracts, maybe we should try to stipulate that once they lay the first coat, that they come behind in a timely manner. I don't know. Does that affect it, Ace?
What, the leaves?
The leaves and the dirt, I mean, they waited a couple weeks and put the second coat on. I mean,
It's gonna affect it, yes.
I don't feel we got our money's worth with Baco on that end of the deal.
It's gotta be clean.
Well, it wasn't.
You can't have a bunch of debris out of the, your tacking doesn't look good.
And then the only other thing that I got is, right under the viaduct by the Night Owl, we got that other lot, that Habitat. I don't know if they purchased it or not, but the grass is real long, and I know we're kind of a stickler with long grass, and that's right close to the main street.
Is that the one on the corner?
Yes, I don't know if that's still our lot or whose it is. As soon as you go under the viaduct.
I think that's ours still. That's ours. You know, that was put in the project as a retention area. And we own it. I'll double check on it, but I think in that project, what was gonna happen is we were gonna own it, but that, they were gonna, when they finished out the project, that was gonna be a retention area.
Okay,
You know, for a
because,
lot of that stormwater that comes down, that's why
Yeah.
we had the ditching and the piping and,
so we were gonna still hang on to that lot.
yeah.
Okay, because I know we had trouble with Gerard's up on the hill with long grass, and we fought tooth and nail, and this one here is real close to the main street, so I don't know
Yeah.
if we can kind of clean it up a little bit. That's all I got.
Dr. Hayes.
Well, I'd just make some more comments on the people making their areas look nice, and if we allow people to put gardens in and water their grass, I don't see how this city's liability is that great. I think we should allow that, just to continue that. People are concerned about long grass, but why aren't we concerned about people allowing to have gardens and watering the grass so it looks nice?
I don't think anybody's saying we should ban gardens.
Liability can turn to a lot of money in a hurry if somebody gets hurt.
Anything else? Lee?
Just like to remind everybody, we have the Leif Erikson Festival this weekend. Looking at the long-range forecast, it's going to be nice through Friday. Hopefully it'll hold for Saturday and Sunday. And then at the last meeting, we sold that land to Wisconsin DNR. Have we got any feedback on that from FERC? We're
No,
waiting
not-
for their approval.
Yeah, waiting on FERC. We have to put together the proposal. The DNR is gonna help with that, and, you know, we'll let you know when we get that through.
Hopefully they'll send us a good letter that says they're okay with us selling
Okay,
it.
I
I'll
think
just-
they'll be okay with that. yeah.
Just like you to stay on top of that unless the
Absolutely.
government shutdown has stopped all this.
This is state, well, FERC.
FERC, that's federal.
Yeah, it's federal, I know.
And I gotta,
But we have a lot of work to do. Hopefully
Yeah.
they'll get it straight.
I gotta laugh every time they go through something like this either, to raise the debt limit, and then all of a sudden they shut down all non-essential jobs. Well, if it's non-essential, what do they have a job for? You know,
That was brought up.
I'll never understand that one. And how are we coming on the speed limits? Understand we have to talk to the state police now, and lowering the speed limit out by Marion Park and the viaduct on the west side of town.
We've had some conversations in that direction. I'm going to be talking with Senator Casperson's office next week, and we're going to be hopefully moving to get those speed limits lowered. I'll have to
Both-
find out from him.
Yeah, both places.
Both places, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, okay. That's all I have.
Mark, you-
Yeah, I got, on the speed limit, I would like to see if we could keep, I don't know if they can split the highway, but I think going west, on west side of town, I think we should try to keep the speed up because the trucks are gonna, they're going 35 by the spring now.
Going up is no problem.
Yeah, it's
Coming in where the problem is.
Well, I don't know, but
I don't think they can.
But I'm curious to see, Lee, if they can do something and allow the trucks to stay up to speed going out of town, because otherwise them trucks are gonna be going 10 miles an hour when they reach the spring.
So I have no problem with that. It's coming in by the viaduct.
Where, the-
Yeah,
where
but
the-
what-
where maybe where the highway splits, they can use that, and they can justify it that way.
But what Ray is saying is he doesn't know if they can split the
I don't
highway.
think they can split the speed, one faster going out than coming in. I think they take a whole section. I mean, if you look at, I think the proposal that we had was that, you know, the area that's 55 right now, which is passing the bank, be 45, and then it hit 55 when it hits the split. You know, the trucks are gonna increase their speed. They're probably not gonna go over that 45 because they're going up the hill. They just need the ability to
See,
hit
but
that
what
acceleration.
they're doing right now, Ray, is they're trying to get up to 55, like by the credit union, or getting it up there, and if they can't get to 55 until the split, they're not gonna make the hill
Well,
as
that'll be a
easy.
concern. I'll ask the question, but I think they take a whole zone both directions. So I'm not sure they'll be able to split it.
And then the other thing that I had, I see in the executive memo, the fifth guy on the electric, I don't think it's a good idea. And if it is passed, I'd like to see it wait until the next construction season when we're actually doing more work. There's no sense to feed that guy through the winter when we're not drilling and putting poles in the ground. If it does go that
Do you do line
way.
construction in the winter, Joe?
Yes, we do.
What's the rest of the council's thought on that? It was written up in the memo. Staff's recommendation was to go back to the 5.
As far as I'm concerned, we should have the 5 men. The committee that recommended it and the Kraus Engineering, they're saying we should have 5.5 if we want to do anything to keep working on our system. And I'm all for it, providing the work is set up and it's there.
And we have the funds to do the work. I mean, do we have that much funds in there that we're gonna be doing that much work to put this $90-some thousand with benefits per position in place?
Well, it was in the budget. The 5th was in the budget.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, if we don't have the money for the line extensions and the modifications for this next year, why would you wanna put in that position? If you don't have the money there for the extensions.
Dr. Hayes or Chris, what are your thoughts?
Well, it sounds like we need 5 people, but are we gonna be doing, any construction this winter?
Yes, we are.
Chris, what do you?
I agree with the 5, as long as we, especially for the winter, if we have work over the winter, then let's get the 5. If not, then we can wait till spring.
I agree with what they're saying. If you need the 5th over the winter, and you can use the 5th, and they'll be put to work, they're not gonna be wasting time, then I'm fine with bringing the 5th on. Otherwise, if we can wait till the spring, if we don't have the work, then we wait till the spring. But if we do, I'm fine with it.
Or the funds.
We have the funds.
We have all the funds.
And it wouldn't be a bad idea to have, I'm sure you have it someplace, Joe, but I'd like to see it, a planned project like what you plan on doing this month, replacing X number, new construction. And I understand that can vary. You can be all set up to start something and you have an emergency and you got to pull everybody off. But I'd like to see the plan. Like I know we've got the WPA area, we've got going out District 5 Road, there's all kinds of downtown
We
Vulcan.
usually go through all that during budget hearings. I have it laid out in what
But
years
can-
we're gonna do.
Maybe we should hold
Can
off
you,
until we get a plan.
Can
Hold
you,
off
can you give
until.
us what's still coming? Or what's left to do, what
Yeah.
you?
But we're
planning?
working on the WPA voltage improvement right at the moment.
Right, if you can write it, I have it written up for next meeting.
And that's all winter and probably sometime into late spring before that's completed.
Okay, if you can just write it up for next meeting, so we can have it in the pack. Anything else?
No.
Okay, I have a couple of comments and questions. The first one is just to have everybody be careful on Wednesday. Wednesday morning is walk to school day for the students. There'll be groups coming from by City Hall, by Ed's Market, and there's a third one I don't remember. Mr. Anderson, do you remember where they're coming from?
City Hall, Marion Park, 3rd Ward.
Third Ward now?
I believe it's out that direction they come. They don't go to 3rd Ward, but they come down that area. I think they go up by Bernie's, and then they walk in.
Okay, if you could get more information,
Sure.
I'll be in the office to pick it up, but I just would like to know, because
It's
I'll
on the
walk.
community channel too.
It's on the community channel? Okay, I'll watch it there then.
And we've let our police officers know this year that's happening, so they can,
Yeah.
okay.
The next thing, it was in our packet, there's a special invitation for the city for Great Start Children First Summit on Friday from 11 to 1. Mr. Anderson would normally go to represent the city, but he's going to be in Marquette at a UP Energy meeting. And I'm unable to attend. It was one of the other council willing to attend, or able to attend this. Okay, if not, I'd like to have Joe. Would you be, are you going to be able to attend, or would you represent the city at that?
Yes, if you wish me to attend, I can go.
Is everybody okay with Joe representing us there? I think it's good for this kind of thing.
Where is it?
It's at Pine Grove in Iron Mountain. I think it's good for the city to be represented at this. It's the first time they've done this summit. And all the cities, all the municipalities, they've all been invited as part of this.
Maybe Trish is interested.
Well, somebody from the office, at least somebody from the office. That's a good point, Mark. I mean, that's a good point. If Mary or Tricia would be willing, somebody to represent the city,
Or Lisa.
or Lisa.
We'll have
We
somebody-
can discuss it, one of us will.
Okay, that's
I'll
all,
check the
that's what
schedule
I'm
for
looking,
Friday.
that's what I'm looking for, was somebody from the city representing us.
We'll draw straws.
Okay, the next thing I had was, it was in our executive memo that Joe's position on the WPPI Executive Committee is now up for election. When we had discussed this before, 2 years ago almost, it was decided then that Joe would be able to serve out his term, but then we would take a look at whether or not we wanted Joe out of the city for that additional time. Right now is when we need to discuss that, because they're up right now, as I understand, correct?
Yes.
There- So my feeling is on this that with that, we will still be attending the regular WPPI meetings, and he'll still be representing us there as a member community. I feel that it's too much time away from the city that we don't need to be for another electric function. There was some council, we had some discussion on it a couple years ago, but where does the rest of the council sit right now? Because my feeling is we should not be applying for Joe, we should not be putting Joe back up for reelection. Just, he should be in the city more for this, and not be out of the city for that function. I'm fine with the regular representative representing us at the regular meeting, but not the executive committee, because that's a monthly commitment.
I'm with Jeremy. I think that Joe's got a lot of responsibility, and I'd like to see him, I think there was a guy in Crystal Falls, was it Crystal Falls?
Yeah,
That was gonna go too?
that would, yeah, well, that,
They were carpooling or something, it said in the notes?
We were working with Florence on
Yeah,
it.
Or
Florence.
We were
carpooling.
carpooling to get there.
Yeah, I think that if, as long as there's somebody from this area, I think that Jeremy's got some good thoughts.
in there I read that the UP doesn't have a representative, but there are other communities that could step up. We've now submitted ours. We took our turn for a couple of years. Let one of the other UP communities step up and send somebody now on the executive committee for a couple of years.
Let me ask, Joe, do you think that your presence on that committee has been advantageous to the city? Have we gotten more grants? Have we gotten any benefits from you being there?
Some of the benefits that come from me being there are, for the actual city of Norway, is I got a good pulse on the staff at WPPI as far as helping the sale of some of our renewable energy credits, and gives me a chance to work with those people when I'm down there. That's one very small part of it. But I think in the bigger picture, representing us and the small communities and the needs of small communities, and being able to express the feelings and coming up with different ideas on power supply and how it'll keep our rates lower so we can keep our rates lower to our customers. There's been some monumental decisions that have been made that were voted on that, you know, if I may not have been there to make the motion, might have went a different direction, you know. I don't know that, that's just speculation, but I was the one that made the motion on purchasing part of the nuclear power plant. And things like that, because I understand power supply very well, dealing with our own hydro, and not all the members have that niche, you know, of understanding that I have. But, you know, it's up to your pleasure whether you want me to
Are there
continue
other
on
members on that committee that generate their own power besides us?
Florence.
Right at the moment,
Florence generates her own, don't they, Joe?
no,
No?
no. There's 11 seats, so I'm just going through my head.
Isn't Kakana on?
Kakana is the only other power supplier. Yes, they have hydro in Kakana.
So, I mean,
That's the one.
we kind of have a unique presence on there because for our size community,
Oh,
having
we're
a power
very,
generator.
extremely unique. There's
But if it's Crystal
communities that,
Falls' turn, they generate their own
Correct,
power,
I'm-
very
I'm-
small.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have somebody from up in the UP representing our types of communities with our.
You will
similar
still
setup.
be contacting with, you know, you will still be
Oh,
associated
there's-
heavy with,
there's 4 meetings a year
yeah.
that are where it's, all the members go to the board meeting, and I'm still the rep for that.
Right.
So, yes,
Right.
that is correct.
How many days are we talking here if you get reappointed, whatever, that you would be gone?
It's typically a day, and sometimes a half a day, and sometimes it's less than a day and a half that I'm gone.
How many times a year?
Every month,
Every month.
with the exception of July. There's no meeting in July. Yes, it's a day and a half. I
just
usually try to leave here, they're Thursday meetings, I leave here, I try to leave around noon, which, well, that's even less than a half a day, because I start at 7 in the morning, so I'm typically done by 3:30. But sometimes I have stuff going on, I don't leave till 3 or 4 o'clock to get down there for an 8 o'clock meeting. So I drive on my own time down there, and then I'm gone all day Thursday, and I come back Thursday after the meeting, and then I'm back at work on Friday morning.
I just think, Lee, our utility superintendent has a lot more utilities than electric, and to be devoting that extra time to electric isn't something that we need, that they should be here in the operation of the city. And I understand, you're still, even when you're gone, you're here because you're on your phone with the people
Yeah.
if there's problems.
And that,
I'm not saying that that doesn't happen. I just think it's better policy to have the electric superintendent or the utility superintendent here.
and I'm just answering his question.
I know, I'm just,
Well, we do have a working foreman now, which we didn't have before in the electric department.
Joe, how many other meetings do you, for meetings and vacation time, how much time do you think you're gone? Other than the 18?
Typically, I don't use all my vacation in a year. I typically use about 4 weeks of vacation a year. Then if it's a day, let's see, that'd be another week and a half. Let's just stay somewhere in the vicinity of six weeks, probably total
6
throughout the
weeks
year.
without the 18 days?
6 weeks.
Without the
with
executive session?
Typically, 6 weeks or thereabouts. Let's go 6 to 7 weeks with the executive committee. That's including everything, Mark. That's
but
about
you
total
have the
time.
ability to take another 2 weeks vacation.
Yes, I do have that ability, yeah.
So that bumps it up to 8 weeks, which is 2 out of 12 months, 6 of the year.
Yeah, I think it's much for what we need, and like Jeremy said, we fulfilled our obligation, and maybe in 2 years, we'll think a little different.
Well, I think it's real important that we have somebody on the inside, and that's what I refer to as the inside, having a man on that board. So if Joe wants to go, I'm all for it. And like I said, we do have a working foreman in the electric department now, and we do have a supervisor in the water department, and we do have a supervisor in the park and recs, and you've got another working foreman in the DPW. So I would think that all those could just step up a little bit when he's gone.
Are there any costs of you going to these meetings? Are your costs paid for, mileage and overnight stays, is that paid for by?
All the costs for the executive committee, which we're discussing right now, are out of my pocket, and then they reimburse me. I use my own vehicle to go. I don't use a city vehicle. It's only the city time that I'm away for that. When it comes to the all board meeting that I'm representing the city, then the cost is borne by the city for the motel room. And typically I take a city truck. I don't put in miles. I just take the city truck. You reimburse me for gas that I pay for that.
When you take the working foreman, Lee, out of the mix and have him doing paperwork that's normally done by Joe, you don't get as much performance out in the field.
Your working foreman's doing paperwork when Joe's gone for 1 day a month?
Well, he may be, depends on the paperwork that needs to be done. Who do you think handles the work orders and all that stuff? The typical day-to-day stuff that Joe does?
That's why we have utility clerk, isn't it?
So Joe doesn't do paperwork then? Is that what you're telling me?
I think that he can handle being gone for 1 day and then doing his paperwork when he gets back. I would think he's got more responsibility to handle stuff like that prior to him leaving than
Well,
just leaving it
well,
up.
Doc, it looks like it comes down to you. Where do you stand? I haven't been able to get a read on where you're saying exactly you stand on this.
I'm just asking questions. I'd like to ask our city manager what his opinion of this situation.
I haven't, I support Joe being involved, especially with WPPI, because WPPI is a very operationally based type of organization. And actually in the electric side, it works well that I'm involved with Michigan Municipal Electric, because they're more legislative, they're more into that legal side, as opposed to WPPI is very operational based. A lot of the conversations that Joe brings back, and he brings back all those conversations, all those notes, and we go through them, and vice versa. I mean, we talk quite a bit about this stuff. There's, you know, if either one of us didn't happen to be involved in these executive board setups, at least participating for the short time that we have, we know people. You know, people get to know us, so it's easier for us to pick up the phone. However, the business does move very quickly. We talked about, in the state of Michigan, we talked about the different laws that have been put in place in the last 3-4 years and trying to get, you know, a read on those. I mean, when we weren't engaged in that way, you're just, you know, you don't even know what's coming down the road. At least we know what's coming. Wisconsin's a whole nother ballgame, you know, as far as, I know we have Bob across the river, but he's Wisconsin, and the WPPI folks need to hear the Michigan concerns, just like the Iowa concerns. I think there's a member from Iowa, isn't there, on the board? Or they
There was a member from Iowa.
Yeah, they try to,
Yes.
because there's a different, you know, they have different rules that we're dealing with and operational issues. So, you know, we go back and forth as to whether or not that day and a half is detrimental. We haven't seen that yet. You know, Tim does a great job of keeping the guys busy that day that Joe's out. All the days he's there, even when he's here, you know. But the work orders, I mean, the working foreman grabs those work orders, or he signs somebody to get those work orders. The work gets done. So, I don't know, I kind of like him being on the inside, like Lee said.
Have you had any discussions with some of the other members that are in the UP of their interest in running for the position?
As of right now, I can tell you that nobody has shown any interest besides myself that would do it. There's no personal benefit for myself to be on this. It's my own personal time that I travel, that I take onto my own. So I don't think that I'm doing this for anything other than just trying to help out. So.
Well, that comes back to my original question. Do you think the city specifically benefits from you being on this, or is it a general benefit of the?
It's a benefit to the city, but it's also a benefit to all the other communities. Because I can express some specific things that we are different from some other ones. And Ray was really spot on with he's on the Michigan side of things, and I'm kind of go this direction, and we kind of meet in the middle when we get back together and talk about the different things that are going on, and we can maybe make some strategic moves before something happens that it would be too late not to make a move on. So.
Is there any benefit when it comes to these wrecks with the possibility of them gaining value in the future? Of you having
well,
these contacts down there?
Because of my involvement, I know that the market right now, there's a lot of retired renewable energy credits available. I know that 2018 is the year that we're looking at where all the RECs that are on the books are going to be expiring and or used up, and that should drive the price up. It's just one example of things that I pick up during these meetings that normally I would not have that kind of knowledge. I learn about things that the average utility superintendent or a city manager running utility just would not know because you're not exposed to that. These are very high-level conversations, very market-based regionally throughout the whole Midwest. And I'm just not saying that because, you know, I wouldn't mind being on it again, I would, but I do think that it makes me a lot better person to work for Norway and have the knowledge that I gain through that board, if I'm reelected.
One thing that helps me out when I'm talking with the group down in Lansing, there's some MISO transmission issues that we're dealing with, and we have a couple cases that are going to the Michigan Supreme Court, actually, where the MISO rules are establishing a payment from each state within the MISO district for cost share to transmit wind